All right, so this lick is another one of those perfect examples where it's kind of a barrage of notes. It's just a flurry of so many notes that it's one of those circumstances where you may not, it may be hard for some to pull anything out of it that's worthwhile using in their own playing because it's just so much information and it goes by so quickly. But what you can do is really analyze each little section and try and find shapes and patterns, or maybe try and figure out what note choices he's using and why over certain chords. But for this, we're just going to really take kind of shapes and deal with those. The first one is a cool little shape that he just starts. This is being played over a C minor chord. Right? He's just using those notes on those strings and throwing that note in there too. But without throwing that note in, it's, which is pretty much C minor pentatonic with this one note added. And that's really your major 7 over that chord. And so what he's doing, he's kind of alternating that first pattern, right? And then he throws in that flat 5 in there too. And he just comes down pentatonic stuff with that one note there too. And I don't want to get into too much theory because that's not part of what this example is. It's more about that shape. So if you take that in any of your pentatonic scales, again, we'll go back to the trusty A minor pentatonic. And that would sort of be the pattern, using all pentatonic notes. But again, he throws in that one extra note. Right, and then he also comes down that flat 5 note. So but instead of using this note, he's also using that major 7, right? Which is outside of that pentatonic scale. Right, so that's one of those things where you can just throw in a note that's, you don't even have to think of why it works, if it works, just throw it in. It's almost like a chromatic passing tone or an approach tone. And you can do that kind of on all strings. You start on the E string, maybe you won't use it there, but you'll use it here on the A string. Then do it again on the D string. And do it again on the G string. Maybe even throw in that 6th. So you have all this pattern, but you're throwing in that 6th fret on every string. Right? It just works. Now you might, again, Guthrie pretty much would never run up a pattern sequential like that. But it's the way you start practicing and figuring out how this might work in your own playing. All right, so the next concept we'll talk about happens a little bit later in the solo, and he's on the 14th fret around that area, and he does something like this. Okay, and the part that I took out of that I thought was really cool and unique was the way he starts incorporating arpeggios. Okay, so he has scale stuff going on, and he's pivoting notes. Then he comes back down the scale. Then again, he pivots notes again. Then he slides down a half step, and he just goes down this 3-note arpeggio, which can be looked at as a C-sharp minor arpeggio. Right? Now the cool thing to do with that is, again, think of just the shape, really. Now you can do that in your, we'll go to A minor pentatonic, right? You might get bored of A minor pentatonic, but it's just a nice, safe home base. So what we'll do is, again, we're thinking pentatonic. And I just threw in that lick there. Now nobody would ever know you took that lick. It's just the same kind of shape. So you have, you slide down a half step, then you pivot off of a note, Then you go back to that note and you go down the triad. Same shape as up here. Right? And you can continue it down the same as you did here. Or you can go back into your pentatonic. So you could have something where you go. Right? And that's just working right from an arpeggio, from pentatonics to an arpeggio, back to pentatonics. And that's how you take just a little tiny shape that you found somewhere else that you may not be familiar with, and you start incorporating into your own stuff. All right, so for the last concept in this lick, it's something that happens at the very end of the lick. It's not something that most people would pick out. It's just a series of a few notes that Guthrie's bending, but he's bending in such a cool, soulful kind of vocalist way. It's something that a lot of guitar players especially skip over because we're so busy, you know, trying to go from one lick to another, doing all this crazy arpeggio stuff and picking stuff and cool phrasing. And when it comes down to it, you want to play, for the most part, you want to play some melodic stuff because that draws the listener in and it gives great contrast to all the fast stuff. Because if you're just playing fast stuff the whole time, your ear the listener's ear is going to get tired and then nothing's going to sound impressive to them. But if you play real cool melodic stuff, and then you throw in fast licks, those fast licks suddenly have more importance and they're like, oh my God, what was that? So it's just something to think about playing melodically. And Guthrie does this all the time, but he does it so cool because, again, guitar players were so busy wanting to get to the next note that we don't sit on a note very long. And Guthrie, here's a perfect example where he's playing 3 notes and he's bending that last one also up a whole step. So you get 4 notes out of this. But he's bending this one up a whole step, this one up a whole step, and this one up a half step, right? But he's, instead of just doing it once, he's really milking that first note. Right? And it's very vocalist, and it pulls your ear in because you keep being pounded with that one pitch. Another thing to take notice of too is trying to get those pitches, you don't want to bend sharp or flat. So the way to test this is you play the first note that you're going to bend to, so here on the 21st fret, and then you play that 19th fret, and then you bend it up to that 21st fret. Then you play that 21st fret again just to hear if that pitch works. So you go, then you play it again, and it sounds okay. Then you do it again with the next one. And the next one's a half step bend. Right? And now you're getting to see if those pitches are right, because you can easily take this, if you didn't do that, and go, and think it's right, but realize it's flat. So another thing to do, again, is take this idea and move it everywhere on the guitar. So if you're in an A minor or C major, you can do, right? And that's just going on the B string, doing the same thing, whole step, half step. Just find your scale and do its equivalent half step and whole step bend. But again, maybe sit on a note. Right? And try and get musical with just a few notes.